Hello and welcome to this special series of videos for our Car Dealer Power Awards. I'm James Baggott, I'm the founder of Car Dealer magazine, and today I'm chatting to the winner of the Car Dealer Power Car of the Year. For 2020, it's the brilliant Land Rover Defender. Obviously, I can't talk to the Defender itself, but I'm going to be chatting to the Jaguar Land Rover's Managing Director, Rawdon Glover. Rawdon, thank you very much for joining me today. Huge congratulations to you and your team. This is a very special award because it's voted for by all of the dealers from all of the manufacturers, regardless of who they represent. How does it feel to win this award?
Yeah, James. Well, firstly, we're very excited about the award. We're very excited about the vehicle, and as you say, the fact that it's voted for by peers in the industry tells us that the Defender really is, I guess, a special car. We've been internally very excited about the car. There's an awful lot of work going into the Defender, trying to respect its history but not be harnessed by it. So actually seeing it recognised in this sense is really special. Yeah, very pleasing.
So, Rawdon, you've been waiting quite some time for the Defender to arrive, haven't you? I mean, it's been teased for a few years. There's been a lot of excitement. Are you glad, and are your dealers glad that it's now in showrooms?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of things in there, James. Yeah, it's been a long time coming. Obviously, we've had many years without Defender in our portfolio. I think strategically for us, it's a really important third pillar for the Land Rover brand. So we have the Range Rover family, we have the Discovery family, and we have the Defender family. It makes sense, perhaps, of where we positioned Range Rover and continue to push Range Rover, but also in terms of where we've positioned the Discovery family. So I think it's important from a brand sense. Obviously, what retailers like is now what's effectively an incremental nameplate. So it's new business, it's in high demand, so great profit opportunity from that perspective. But I think that aside, the Defender is a really important part of the Land Rover's DNA. And I think it's been fantastic seeing our staff go through all of the training, seeing them get really excited, engage in the product. So as much as the commercial side, I actually think it's given the network a real lift at a crucial time, really. And it's bringing an awful lot of new business into through our doors, actually. And again, looking at the part exchanges we're taking, it could not be more eclectic. So again, from a conquest point of view, also really good.
So it's performing pretty well sales-wise already?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously early days. But the launch itself was probably launched at the worst possible time. I mean, literally, lockdown came in the middle of the UK press launch. We literally had to take people out of cars and say, "I'm sorry, we're now going into lockdown." So, a very tough time from that perspective. But certainly, in terms of initial sales, inquiries, I mean, on the first day we had 250,000 configurations of the site. If you give us an indication of the level of interest there. We've just completed what we call Meet the Defender Tour, which is effectively a half day in the vehicle, unaccompanied. And we did over 4,000 nationwide over a period of about 10 days. So really, really positive reaction. Initial sales have been strong. And we've now just launched the 90, the commercial and the PHEV variants, which again, have just given it a further shot in the arm, really. So yeah, it's been very, very positive from a sales perspective, and I'm sure, particularly when we get all of the variants, all of the engine different opportunities, and again, we've got a mild hybrid, we've got a plug-in hybrid, so lots and lots of choice for customers, which is really key.
Rawdon, the dealers I'm chatting to at the moment seem to be in pretty good place. They seem to be doing pretty well sales-wise. What are you hearing from across your network?
Yeah, I would say across the piece, Jaguar and Land Rover, I think if you offered us 4 months ago, the last 4 months of trading, and said, this is what it's going to be like in a post-COVID world, I think me and probably everybody else in the industry would have bitten your hand off. So it has been very positive. I mean, we actually posted a black number in our retailer profitability figures in August, rather, which is unheard of. So to make money in a month before a plate change is really good to see. And I guess, like the industry, we're seeing very strong service performance. We're seeing a really buoyant new car market and a buoyant used car market. So when those three things converge, it's obviously good news from the retailer's perspective, from a profitability. So yeah, really, really strong.
Rawdon, can that continue? Do you think that that's going to continue for the rest of the year?
Well, I think most people, myself included, were sort of cautiously optimistic about Q3 and really concerned about Q4. I don't think by any means we're complacent about Q4, but certainly I'm feeling more positive about Q4 now than probably at any other time post-COVID, as we start to see what our order intake has been like over the last few months, what our order banks are likely to be going into October. Inquiry levels are still very high for both new and used, which is obviously as a lead indicator of demand. At the moment, I actually think Q4 could really, it perhaps won't be quite as positive as Q3, but we're optimistic about Q4. Key thing for us as well, though, is we've got an awful lot of new product landing. So obviously we're here talking about the new Defender. We've literally just launched effectively a new car in the F-Pace. It's a really significant mid-cycle refresh. Our plug-in hybrids for the Evoque, the Discovery Sport, and the F-Pace. In fact, we launched today. We launched our plug-in hybrid in our 21 model year Velar. So we've got tons of great product landing at it couldn't be at a better time for us, I think. And for particularly Jaguar Land Rover, we've not really played particularly strongly in the fleet market. And now with the range of PHEVs and obviously with the I-Pace, we've got a fantastic offering for the contract hire market, which we just haven't had before. So to a certain extent, I think that's giving us probably a little bit of lift going into Q3 and 4 as well, James.
Rawdon, what about these COVID restrictions that have just been announced and the threat of what could be another lockdown? I mean, does that worry you at all, or do you think it's going to affect the business?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not good news, James. I think I remember the conversations with some of our investors just as the news landed that customers were going to have to wear masks in retailers, and we were probably a little bit concerned about that. But that hasn't really had the impact that we felt it might sort of dent the momentum that was building. So I think the fact that retailer staff will need to wear masks is probably something that in a couple of weeks' time we'll just look back and it will just become the norm. Clearly a second wave is a threat. Whether we go to a full lockdown, I suspect not, but obviously we'll just have to wait and see how the numbers evolve and how the government responds. It's really tough to forecast. And in fact, probably for people in my job, trying to forecast that level of demand, make sure that we're not, missing opportunities, but also not being overly bullish. It's finding that right balance is absolutely crucial for everybody in the industry. We've been really judicious about stock levels. We've got our stock in really good shape in terms of our retailers. So I think as we go into the next quarter, I think we're probably in as good a shape as we could be. And I guess we're cautiously optimistic about what the future lies, because in terms of how the pandemic is going to affect the economy as a whole, I suspect, as everybody else thinks, there will be longer lasting economic impact, which is going to have some sort of impact on the industry. I don't think it's going to be broad brush though. I also don't expect the premium market to be completely impervious to any economic impacts, but I suspect the premium market might fare a little bit better than total industry. If we look at the sectors that are being hardest hit by COVID, it's going to be particularly things like the under 25 groups, who traditionally are not a market we play in. So whilst from a social perspective, it'll be devastating, if I stand back and look at it commercially, I actually think the premium market may hold up a little bit better than the rest of the industry, which again, for us as somebody that only plays in that segment, is possibly a little bit of good news. For people that are in work, certainly consumer levels of debt are low, interest levels are low, and actually cash balances are really high for customers that are in employment. So in that context, they're probably not spending the money going out, they're not spending the money on holidays, and we're definitely seeing people, I guess, invest in other things such as cars. So there is a flip side that could give us some grains of positivity, but okay, as always, it's trying to strike that balance between when the opportunity's there and the customer's there, we've got to make sure that, you know, we're there and we've got stock and product available, but also make sure we don't get ahead of ourselves. That's really the balance we're trying to strike.
I think a lot of what you say there really rings true, Rawdon. Just one last question. We spoke to Bill Berman this week. He mentioned that he'd still like to see government incentives. When we last spoke in, I think it was in July or just maybe even June, you were hoping to see something. They didn't come into fruition. Do you think one is still needed? And if so, what would that look like?
Well, I think when we look back at this much earlier on in the summer, we didn't know how the market was going to respond. And I think if we look at the state of various industries across the UK, it's actually probably slightly more difficult for the automotive industry to make a case for support with where we are today. If you look at relative to hospitality, to some of the travel industries, etc. If that changes, clearly we'll need to respond quickly. But at the moment, you know, for a market where I suspect September will be probably on a par with last year, maybe slightly up. Clearly, August was up, July was up. You know, as we sit here today, which is what the government will be looking at, that's perhaps not a strong case to make, but definitely something we need, you know, and we will be through our SMMT colleagues is being in very, very close contact with SMMT and government. As you know, if that starts to change, and we need to be ready.
Yeah, it's quite hard to make a case for support, isn't it? When we're reporting such buoyant sales all the time.
Well, it is, and it's a fine balance. And I think I understand where Bill's coming from in terms of because we can see that there might be much tougher times ahead. But I guess it's also we've got to put it into context the level of public debt we're carrying. The government are going to have to make some tough choices in terms of where they do support. But yeah, we just need to be ready. We've done a lot of work as an industry in terms of what a stimulus package could look like, and we would hope that the government would respond quickly when the need presents itself.
Rawdon, thanks ever so much for that update. I really appreciate you giving us so much time today, and congratulations to you and the Land Rover team for an incredible win in our Car Dealer Power Awards.
No, well, thank you very much, James, and thank you for everybody that voted for it. I really appreciate it. We're super excited about it, and can't wait to see more of them on the road.
Great stuff. Thanks ever so much. So thanks ever so much there to Rawdon Glover from Jaguar Land Rover. To find out who else has won our Car Dealer Power Awards, log on to cardealermagazine.co.uk and click on the Power tab at the top of the page. I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me. Goodbye.